It started like any other rainy afternoon, the kind where the sky soaks in shades of gray and the wind whispers secrets through half-open windows. I was curled up on the couch with a blanket in my half-forgotten novel when the doorbell rang. I wasn't expecting anyone. Through the peephole stood a boy. No, not quite a boy. A man, barely older than 20, soaked to the skin and smiling like the rain didn't dare touch him. Liam, my neighbor's son. I'd seen him around only a few times, tall, graceful, with eyes too intense for someone his age. There was always something about him that made the air around him feel charged. "Hey," he said, voice warm but distant. "My mom said I could wait here. Power's out at our place and she had to run to the city." I should have said no. I should have hesitated. But something in his voice, polite yet edged with a quiet sadness, made me step aside. Liam sat beside me on the couch, close but not too close. His wet hoodie steamed lightly as he warmed up, and he glanced around my apartment like it held memories he couldn't quite remember. "You live alone?" he asked. I nodded. "Usually peaceful, unless someone randomly knocks in a thunderstorm." He smiled. God, that smile! It wasn't cocky, not arrogant, just soft. Romantic, like he knew something I didn't. We talked about music, about the storm, about how the neighborhood used to be before half the houses became silent. He seemed older than his age, smarter than his years. And then I saw it, a shadow behind him, flickering. But when I blinked, it was gone. That night, the lights flickered. My phone lost signal. Liam was telling a story, something about a legend from his childhood. When I heard it, 3 slow knocks, not on the front door, on the inside of the hallway closet. I froze. So did he. "Don't open that," Liam said quietly, all traces of his smile gone.
"Please."
"How do you?" "It's not the first time it's followed me," he whispered. We sat in silence for a while, closer this time. The way his hand brushed mine didn't feel accidental. His voice lowered, softer now. "I don't know why," he said, eyes fixed on the flickering lamp, "but it only comes when I feel safe, like it wants to punish me for peace." I didn't know how to respond, so I reached for his hand, and this time he didn't pull away. It was the first time in a long time I'd let someone sit beside me and not feel like I needed to hide. Despite everything, the storm, the knocking, the strangeness, I felt calm, warm. Like maybe, just maybe, Liam had brought something into my life I didn't know I needed. I offered to let him sleep on the couch. He thanked me, that same gentle voice curling around my heart like a silk ribbon. At 20:12 a.m., I woke up to a sound, footsteps, in my bedroom, and standing at the foot of my bed was Liam. His eyes glowed faintly in the dark. Not human, not normal. He smiled again. This time, not soft, this time terrifying. The moment our eyes met in the dark, I couldn't breathe. Liam stood at the foot of my bed, his face half lit by the pale moonlight cutting through my curtains. But something was wrong. His irises weren't brown anymore. They glowed faintly silver, like moonlit glass. "Liam," I whispered. He didn't answer, just stared, unblinking. Then, all at once, he turned and walked out silently, the way someone walks in a dream. When I followed him into the living room, he was asleep, curled on the couch, breathing steadily, face soft and peaceful. Had I imagined it? The next morning, the sun spilled into my apartment like nothing had happened. Liam woke up with a sleepy smile, rubbing his eyes and thanking me for letting him stay. "I slept like a rock," he said. "You didn't come into my room last night?" He frowned. "No." "Why?" I didn't answer. I didn't want to seem crazy, not yet. Over the next few days, Liam kept coming by. He always had a reason. His mother wasn't home, or the power went out, or he had just been passing by. But I could tell the truth, he wanted to be near me, and I didn't mind. He helped me cook, cleaned up the dishes, laughed at my dry jokes, and told me strange stories. Not just creepy tales, but myths of spirits that lived in mirrors, shadows that watched people sleep, and ancient pacts made under moonlight. "They sound so real when you tell them," I said once, teasing. "That's because some of them are," he replied, serious this time. On the 5th night, the air in my apartment changed cold. Still, the shadows moved like they were breathing. I woke up again. This time, it wasn't footsteps. It was a voice. Soft, close to my ear. "He doesn't belong here? Neither do you." When I sat up, Liam was in the hallway, staring into the bathroom mirror. His reflection didn't match his movement. It blinked too slowly. smiled before he did. He turned to me, his face pale. "You saw that, didn't you?" he asked quietly. I nodded. Finally. "What's happening to you, Liam?" He sat beside me again. His warmth was familiar now, but his expression was distant, heavy with something unsaid. "There's something in me," he began. "Something I didn't invite, something inherited." I waited. My father died before I was born. He was part of something ancient. My mom tried to keep me away from it. But when I turned 22, it started waking up. He touched his chest. "It lives here. It watches you. It likes you." I asked, my voice trembling. He nodded. "I don't know what it wants, but when I'm with you, it gets stronger, more active." It should have been the moment I told him to leave, but I didn't. Because when he looked at me, truly looked, there was something vulnerable behind the strange and the supernatural. A boy who didn't ask for this. A boy who was trying to be good. "You don't scare me," I whispered. "I scare myself," he said. He leaned in, gently brushing a strand of hair from my face. I felt his breath against my skin. He paused just before the kiss. "If I kiss you," he said, "I don't know what it will wake up." I kissed him anyway. That night, the storm returned, harder than before. Windows rattled, shadows twisted. My reflection in the mirror smiled on its own. And Liam, he was curled on the floor in pain, whispering things in a language I didn't understand. His spine arched. His hands turned cold. And from his mouth came another voice, hollow and deep. "You should not have touched him." The lights burst in a flash. Glass shattered. And as I reached for him, trying to shake him awake, his body went still. For a moment, the apartment was silent. Then he opened his eyes, but they weren't his, and he spoke my name in a voice that was not his own. "You belong to me now." His voice wasn't his. The way he said my name, like it was both a warning and a promise. I stumbled backward. My hands were shaking, heart slamming inside my chest like it wanted out. "Liam," I whispered. "Fight it, please." But the thing inside him only smiled. It wasn't mocking. It was possessive, as if it had been waiting for this moment, waiting for me. Later, when the storm faded and Liam collapsed unconscious on the floor, I found a journal hidden inside his backpack. It was old, bound in cracked leather. The pages smelled of damp and smoke. Inside, I read his handwriting mixed with symbols and drawings, circles, eyes, runes that pulsed when I touched them. At the center of it all was a word, scrawled again and again in the margins: Iltemate. Not a demon, not a spirit, a curse, a binding made through blood and longing. The journal explained the truth in fragments. Ultimate is desire born wrong, a soul tether shaped like a person, passed down from the first ancestor who loved something he should have destroyed. And Liam, he was born into it, marked, hunted. When he woke, Liam was himself again, pale, shaken. He stared at his hands like they were betraying him. "I felt it watching through me," he said. "Using me. I didn't want to hurt you." "You didn't," I whispered. "It did, but it's part of me," he murmured, voice cracking. "That means it always will." He tried to leave, said it was safer, said I should forget him, but I didn't let him go. "Stay," I said, taking his hand. "Not because I'm not afraid, but because I know you're still in there." His eyes filled with tears, but he stayed. The days that followed were quiet, filled with fragile warmth. We sat closer now, talked softer. His hand would rest on mine longer, and sometimes when he thought I wasn't looking, he'd gaze at me like I was the last normal thing left in his world. And sometimes I caught myself gazing back the same way, but the shadows were always there, watching. The curse was waking faster now. One evening, I walked past the mirror in the hallway and saw something impossible. My reflection had Liam's eyes, and it was crying blood. I screamed, and Liam was there in a second, wrapping his arms around me. But behind us, the mirror cracked from the inside. The curse was no longer just in him. It had found me. That night, Liam confessed something I hadn't read in the journal. "There's a way to stop it," he said. "How?" "It involves you." He looked broken. "The ultimate is tied to longing. If the bond is completed willingly, if I fully give myself to you, mind, body, soul, it either dies or consumes us both." My breath caught. He was asking if we should risk everything for a love that might end in darkness. That night, I didn't sleep. Neither did he. We lay beside each other, close, breathless, but afraid to touch. And just before dawn, a knock came at the door, 3 times slow, hollow. When I opened it, no one was there. But on the threshold was a single white flower wilting. Inside the petals, my name, written in Liam's handwriting. Only it wasn't his ink. It was blood. Rain tapped gently against the windows like the world outside was holding its breath. Inside, the warmth of Liam's body pressed against mine, his fingers tracing slow, silent promises across my wrist. Neither of us spoke for a long time. We didn't need to. His breath was soft against my neck, steady like he was memorizing the shape of my heartbeat. My head rested on his chest, listening to the rhythm, trying to forget that something ancient and cruel lived just beneath his skin. I want to keep this moment, I whispered. Trap it in glass. Stop time right here. Liam's hand moved to my hair, his fingers weaving through it gently. If I could give you that, I would. He meant it. And that was what scared me the most. Because I was beginning to believe I would choose him over everything else, even my own safety, even my soul. I pulled back slightly, just enough to look into his eyes. Those stormy, unreadable eyes that had once glowed with something not entirely human. Now they were only Liam again, soft, warm, full of something aching and impossible. I had a sister, I said suddenly, quietly. Her name was Nia. She used to hum to herself when she was scared. I always thought it was so silly, but now I do it too. Sometimes I catch myself doing it in the dark. Liam stayed still, watching me gently. She died 2 years ago. I was supposed to pick her up that day, but I stayed late at work. She texted me and I ignored it. My voice cracked. I think that's why I let you in that night, I whispered. Not because I wasn't afraid, but because part of me wants to make up for not showing up when someone needed me. Liam's arms wrapped around me tighter. You did show up, he murmured. You did, for me. My tears came then, sudden and quiet, like the storm outside, not furious, just endless. He kissed my forehead like he was trying to heal something time couldn't reach. It wasn't pity. It was something quieter. Real. Whatever's in me, he said, voice low. Whatever this thing is, it can't take this from me. It can't take you. But we both knew he was wrong. Because love, in this cursed world, was exactly what the Iltemate fed on, and we had just given it something pure to destroy. The mornings without him were the worst. I would still wake up to the shape of him, imprinted in memory, not the bedsheets. My hand would instinctively reach to the empty space beside me, hoping to find his warmth, his steady breath, the safety he carried like a scent. But it was always cold, always quiet, and always real. Before Liam, I lived like most people who carry invisible wounds, neatly dressed, politely distant, always fine. I smiled at neighbors, kept my head down at work, ate the same meals, brushed my teeth twice, paid rent early, but inside, I was a house with the lights off. Dusk gathering on dreams, I never spoke out loud. My family had always been small and stretched thin. Just my mother and me after my father walked out when I was 11. She worked double shifts most of my teenage years. I never blamed her. But love in our home was rationed, like flour during a war. Enough to survive, never enough to be full. After her stroke, I became her caretaker. I was 24 and had to trade my life in for hospital bills, medication schedules, and feeding charts. She couldn't speak near the end, but she looked at me like she remembered when I was little and used to dance in the kitchen barefoot. That was the last piece of me I think she loved, before the grief changed me. She died quietly, and I didn't cry. I went back to work the next day, and that's how life looked. Before Liam, a long hallway with no doors, no windows, no exits, just routine, breath, sleep, silence. And then there was him. The first time I saw Liam up close, he was helping his mother carry groceries. His hoodie sleeves were too long. His mouth curled in an awkward half-smile when he caught me staring. Something about him was completely undone and completely charming, like someone who wasn't pretending to be okay. When he smiled at me, it wasn't flirtation, it was recognition. Like he saw something in me he already knew. A sadness he shared. We didn't fall in love all at once. It was slower than that. We built it through whispered conversations in my kitchen, through late night confessions under flickering lights, through the way his hand brushed mine, tentative. Careful, like he was afraid his darkness would stain me. He was unlike anyone I'd ever met. Romantic without trying. Gentle without apology. There was something boyish in him that made me laugh, and something broken that made me stay, even with the ultimate inside him, even with all the strange and terrifying moments. I chose him. Because pain recognizes pain, and when someone looks at your deepest wound and doesn't flinch, you don't let them go. But now I was alone again. The curse had taken him, and every night without him, I went back to survival, brushing my teeth, feeding the silence, sleeping in a bed made for two. I talked to the empty couch like he was still there. I played his favorite songs just to fill the room. And sometimes just before sleep, I whispered, "I'll find you. I swear I'll bring you back." Even if it killed me, it began slowly, the way all hauntings do. Not with blood on the walls or voices from the ceiling. No, it was gentler, stranger, almost romantic. The first time, I thought it was my imagination. I was lying in bed, staring at the ceiling fan, when I felt a shift in the air, like someone had exhaled beside me. My eyes flicked to the left. The bed was empty, but the sheet had folded slightly, like weight had pressed against it. And then came the sound, as 3 soft knocks, a nod on a door, from beneath the bed. I sat up too quickly, heart drumming in my throat, and whispered his name, Liam, even though I knew it couldn't be him. Not really. But sometimes in the dark, we ask stupid questions just to feel less alone. The next day, I woke with tears on my cheeks. I had dreamed of him. He was standing at the edge of a lake, barefoot, soaked to the knees. Fog curled around his legs like fingers, and his eyes, those same storm-gray eyes, watched me like he was waiting for me to call him back. In the dream, he said just 3 words, Chor. "Don't forget me." I hadn't. But something about the way he said it made it feel like he was beginning to forget me. Then came the mirror. It started with condensation where there shouldn't have been any, fogging across the glass even when the room wasn't warm. And in the center of it, a fingertip mark. A slow, deliberate swipe from left to right. Once I caught a glimpse of a silhouette over my shoulder, tall, familiar. But when I turned, I was alone. The silence in the apartment started to feel too silent, like the air itself was listening. One evening, I lit a candle. Not for ambience, not even for comfort, just to have something alive in the room. And the flame bent, us not with a breeze, with purpose. It leaned toward me, held there, flickered once, twice, then died. I relit it. This time the wax dripped fast, pooling like something unseen had touched it. The smell of burning wasn't wax, it was his cologne. Too, I started hearing my name, not loud, never clear, but always there, just at the edge of sleep, just when I was about to drift into another dream of Liam standing by the lake. Sometimes I felt it, a presence behind me, gentle, still, romantic, almost, like a memory leaning in too close, like a lover who had never truly left. But other times, it felt colder, hungrier, like whatever was watching wasn't Liam at all, like something else had taken his shape and was learning how to wear his voice. Cue and still, every night, I whispered into the dark, "If I miss you." Because even if the shadows answered, even if it wasn't him anymore, part of me still wanted to believe he was listening. The night the mirror cracked by itself, I called her. Maya, she was the one person I had left, a thread to the world that still made sense. We hadn't spoken in months, not since before Liam, but when she answered on the first ring, her voice was like a lifeline. "Hey," she said softly. I was waiting for this. I didn't ask what she meant. I just let the silence between us speak. 10 minutes later, she was at my door, drenched from the rain but smiling like she knew exactly what kind of pain lived behind my eyes. Maya always had that way of making people feel like they weren't too hard to carry. She stepped inside, dropped her bag, and hugged me without asking. And when I broke down in her arms, she didn't say, "You'll be okay." She just held me tighter. "You still see him, don't you?" she asked later, as we sat across from each other on the living room floor. The candle between us flickered, not from wind, but from something else we both noticed. "I don't know if it's really him," I admitted. "Sometimes it feels like him, like his warmth, his voice, but then it doesn't." She finished. "Then it feels like something wearing his skin." I nodded and my throat clenched. Maya reached into her satchel and pulled out a bundle wrapped in deep violet cloth. Inside was a pendant, round and ancient-looking, with a tiny glass eye at its center. "It's not just grief," she whispered. what you're feeling. What's lingering here? It's part of something older. Something called? I stared at her, stunned. How do you know this? Because my grandmother told me stories when I was little, she said. About the Iltemate. About a longing so strong it opens doors that should stay closed. She said love could be a spell, and sometimes it invites more than just memories. I held the pendant. It pulsed faintly in my hand as though aware. He loved you, Maya said gently. He still does. That's why this thing, whatever it is, hasn't torn you apart yet. It's feeding on your connection, but it's also afraid of it. My eyes stung. I don't want to lose him again, I whispered. You haven't lost him, she said. Not yet. Not that night, Maya stayed with me. She slept curled up on the couch while I dozed fitfully in my bed, the pendant resting over my heart. And just before dawn, I dreamed again. Liam stood in front of a doorway made of shadow and bone reaching for me. This time I stepped closer. I felt the tether between us. Not a rope. A ribbon. Thin, but glowing. Chor, you're coming for me, he said, his voice full of awe. Chor, I'm trying, I whispered. Behind him something growled. The doorway began to close. Chor, hurry. Toot, I woke gasping. The pendant hot against my chest. Maya was already awake, sitting cross-legged in the living room, the window open to the breeze. She looked at me like she'd been waiting again. We don't have much time, she said. But love brought him to you, and love may be the only thing strong enough to bring him back. And with that, I realized this wasn't just a haunting. It was a story, a love story. But I didn't know yet if it would have a happy ending or a tragic one. Every night, it returned, like a ritual, 3 soft knocks. Never at the door, never from outside, but somewhere deeper. Inside the walls, beneath the floor, inside me, I would freeze in bed. The blankets pulled to my chin, breath held like a secret. The Iltemate was always there, watching, waiting. Sometimes it whispered my name, not with malice, but with longing. Like a lover standing outside your window in the rain. Other times it echoed Liam's voice. So perfectly, so heartbreakingly familiar that I almost believed it was him. Let me in. And every night, I swore I wouldn't. Every night I failed. But tonight was different. Tonight I dreamed of him again. Liam stood in the middle of my apartment, bathed in moonlight. Hair tousled, lips parted like he'd been running toward me. He looked real, more real than I'd seen him in weeks. He held out his hand. It's stronger now, he said, so close to me. But I'm still here. I haven't let it take everything. I stepped toward him, heart pounding. What do I do? His eyes searched mine, desperate. Kiss me. What? He swallowed. If you kiss me, it'll know, it'll see, it'll try to come through. Then why would I? Because it's already coming, he said. And I want to feel something that's mine before it does. I hesitated only a moment. Then I reached for him, and our lips met, soft, slow. Burning. The room pulsed around us. The air grew dense. The shadows crawled. And then a scream. High, cold, unnatural. I pulled back. Liam was gone. The room was empty again, except for the mirror where I now saw 2 reflections. One was mine. The other wore Liam's face. And it was still kissing me. I didn't sleep. I fell. One moment I was lying awake, replaying the kiss. The way Liam's lips felt real, alive, and desperate. And the next I was being pulled. Not into sleep, but through it, like sinking through black velvet laced with whispers. The dream world wasn't a world at all. It was a feeling, heavy, humid, and full of color that didn't belong anywhere on earth. Deep reds that bled into the air, violet shadows that shimmered like oil on water. I was standing barefoot in a field of glass flowers. Every step echoing like bone against porcelain, and above me, 2 moons. One full, one cracked down the middle. Liam stood in the distance watching me, but he didn't move. I ran to him. Heartbreaking, breath caught between love and terror. But the space between us wouldn't shrink. No matter how fast I moved, he stayed just out of reach, like he was tethered to something else. Leah, I screamed. I'm here. He blinked slowly. His eyes glowed faintly with that silver light again, but I saw it now, behind them, the Iltemate, watching through him, wearing him like a favorite coat, and then he moved, not toward me. He collapsed. Glass flowers shattered under his weight. A black fog bled up through the soil, curling around his chest like claws. He gasped, once sharply as if breathing in poison, His mouth opened, and something inside him screamed. Not his voice. Wow, you cam too far. The sky flickered like a faulty bulb. The moons turned black, and I felt it then. The Iltemate wasn't a place. It was a memory made monstrous. A space born from desire that had rotted in the dark, and I had stepped straight into it. I dropped to my knees beside him. His hands clutched at mine, hot, trembling, still human. His lips moved, barely forming words. Don't trust what loves you here. Suddenly, everything around us shifted. The dream cracked like old glass, and I wasn't in the field anymore. I was back in my apartment. Same couch, same lamp, same rain on the windows. But Liam was standing in the kitchen now, smiling softly, holding 2 cups of tea like it was any other night. Bad dream. He asked, voice sweet, easy. I took a step back, he noticed. You don't recognize me, he said, tilting his head. I do, I said. And that's the problem. Because Liam, my Liam, had never looked at me like this. This version smiled with too many teeth, and his shadow moved the wrong way. He reached out, tenderly brushing my cheek with the back of his hand. It should have felt warm, familiar. But it burned. You kissed me, the thing wearing Liam said. And now I'm part of you. I wanted to scream, but I couldn't. Not yet. I needed to know what it wanted. What are you? I whispered. The Iltemate leaned in, so close I could taste the cold on its breath. I'm the thing that grows in love left too long in the dark, it murmured. The longing no one speaks of. The echo of the kiss you regret. I am the shape of devotion twisted into a cage. It kissed me again, and this time when I pulled away, my own reflection smiled without me. The first kiss should have been the last, but it wasn't. Because after that night in the dream world, after Liam vanished beneath a field of glass, and I kissed something that was not quite him, I began to change, not all at once, but slowly, like a fever that doesn't burn, a wound that doesn't bleed. It began with the way mirrors stopped reflecting me completely. My smile would linger a second too long after I'd looked away. My shadow grew too still, and when I whispered Liam's name at night, the wind answered back. I started dreaming of him every evening at precisely 20:12 a.m., always the same Liam standing barefoot in the fog, his hands open, his mouth moving, but his voice arriving late, as if reality had slowed down just to keep us apart. The Iltemate realm was not a world made of earth and rules. It was built on longing, regret, love that didn't die but turned inward, a haunted ballroom of memory, a forest grown from promises never kept, a cathedral where every window was a moment I didn't say I love you when I should have. One night, I found myself in a dream so lucid I forgot it wasn't real. We were dancing. Liam held me in his arms, close, careful, like he thought I might shatter. His forehead pressed against mine, and his voice was barely a breath. You feel real tonight. I held him tighter. I am. But even as I said it, the dream shifted. The stars overhead flickered, the music bent, like a record warping in heat. The other dancers, people I didn't know, dressed in black silk and sorrow, turned their heads in sync, and then they stopped dancing, all at once, one by one. They whispered, let him go. He does not belong to you anymore. You've brought him too far. I clung to Liam's chest. Don't listen to them. But he stepped back, his fingers shaking. I feel it, he said. It's waking again. Through me, his hand pressed over his heart. It wants to use what I feel for you. I'm not afraid, I told him. He smiled then. A sad, beautiful smile that broke something inside me, like he already knew what would come. You should be. Then the ballroom shattered. The stars collapsed into ash. The dancers melted into shadow. The sky opened, like paper torn from underneath, and I fell. When I woke, the bed was soaked in cold sweat. My hands trembled. But the worst part, there was a kiss on my shoulder. Warm, fresh, as if someone had just left it there, and I was alone. The Iltemate was changing the rules. It was no longer content to haunt my dreams. It was wearing Liam now, perfectly, pulling pieces of him from memory, using them to tempt me deeper, and I couldn't stop going back, because somewhere in that cursed dreamscape, beneath the veil of sorrow and beauty, Liam was still alive. And every night I went to him, I remembered what love should be. The way his fingers curled into mine without asking. The way his voice could quiet the screaming in my head. The way he said my name like it was sacred. And I swore in every shadow and scream, that I would find the real him, But the deeper I fell, the more I noticed. Something was following me in the dreams now. Not Liam. Not the ultimate. A new presence, silent, tall, cloaked in light, not shadow, a figure with no face but eyes that burned like morning, and every time I woke, it was one step closer to my bed,